God is silent, when you don't hear anything from him, you're seeking after him, but you're not hearing God's voice. You don't know the direction to go. What do you do? That's one of the things we're going to cover today as we're starting talking about holy moments, part one in our Advent series of what we've been going through. My name is Scott, and I want to take you through this journey and say, what are the things that people do? And we're going to find out in the holy moment we're going to talk about today is with Elizabeth and Zechariah, where God speaks to them. Finally, it's been a long time, but God specifically answers a prayer, but God's also doing a much bigger work, as he always does, because he's God and amazing. And so when we pick up the story of the Advent story, it doesn't start with Jesus. It actually starts before that because God is lining up these different things to show that he's in control and he answers specific prayers for this couple that's been waiting for a child for a long time. And when we pick it up, it is the New Testament and it's written by Luke. What we're going to read today is Luke is a new convert. He didn't grow up as a Jewish person, he didn't grow up hearing the message of the Old Testament. But he gets converted. He hears the gospel of Jesus Christ, that he died on the cross for his sins and he deserved to die. But God dies for him by sending Jesus. And that's the message that he believes. And he's a new creation. Just like anybody that's out there listening to this can receive that also. But before that, there was 400 years of silence. The book of Malachi is the last prophet that's giving to the Israelites. It's the last time they hear from God in that sort of corporate setting where God is speaking to the people. And it's 400 years. And then we get the message that Malachi asks, and he is saying there's going to be this prophecy, and it's Malachi chapter 3, verse 1. I will send my messenger who will prepare a way before me. Then suddenly the Lord you are seeking will come. And that, as we look at it now through hindsight, is John the Baptist comes and he prepares the way for the Lord, for Jesus to come. And then Jesus comes on the scene. But we need to have John the Baptist. John the Baptist needs to be born first. And that's where we pick up and we hear about what do you do when you're silent? Well, Zechariah and Elizabeth, they did a few things that they were seeking after God. But who are they? Zechariah is just literally a no-name priest. He's not important in the grand scheme of things. He wasn't well known before this, but God used him and his wife Elizabeth. They were very old. They were getting older in age, past childbearing age. And like the whole factory had shut down. The child baby factory had shut down. But God shows up and gives them this message. And it just almost so happens. It's almost like we read in the scriptures. It seems to be a random event. It seems that way. But really, God is orchestrating all these things to lay it up where God gets all the credit. And it's so amazing where the priests back in those days, there were so many priests. And First Chronicles lays out this process where they would divide the priests into 24 different categories. And when it was your time, you kind of cast lots. And when it was your time to go to the temple, you'd go to Jerusalem, to the temple, all the surrounding cities and villages. Each priest in there would have their certain time. 1 week out of the year, they would go to Jerusalem, do their duties as a priest. And Zechariah, he does that. He goes to the temple during the time of incense, the hour of incense, which is at the beginning of the day and also toward the end. And it's at that point where God shows up to him and answers a prayer that nobody knows about except for him and his wife and God. And there is a pain of this unfulfilled longing for, man, is God going to show up? Is he ever going to show up? And Zechariah and Elizabeth carrying this deep pain because the Bible says that they were faithful. They were seeking after God. And Luke chapter 1, verse 7 lays up the scenario. It says, but they had no child because Elizabeth was barren, and both were advanced in years. And the Bible, the inspired word of God, is setting up the scenario where only God could do this. This is impossible. And it seems to be a random event that Zechariah is even going to the temple. And then we begin to see one of the main focuses that I think is so important when we look at this, and it begins to contrast because it lays out King Herod. He's in power at this time. He would have been all about the ritual and approaching God in that way, really just using religion to gain power. It's just sort of a show. You ever had people in your life, or maybe you've been that way before, where going to church or saying you're a Christian or doing the prayer, it was all about a ritual, but it wasn't that real close relationship. And that's what we see with King Herod. The other side of it, Luke is laying out, there's also this couple. They're not important in the grand schemes of things, but they are faithfully seeking God. They're praying, they're showing up when it matters. They're just continuing to seek after God. But rituals, it's sort of like it focuses on showing importance. But then we see the relationship side, the routine relationship, just keep going after God. It's focused on who is important, and that's God. And on one side, he's driven by paranoia. I got to do these things right. I got to do the right ritual. I got to do this because I'm trying to appease both people. That's what King Herod is doing. But then you look at Zechariah and Elizabeth. They're all about being prayerful. And then look at the other side of Herod. He's all about appeasing God, all about appeasing doing these religious type of things, these ceremonies, all about emphasis on religious ceremonies. But then you see the genuine relationship, that it's all about seeking after God with your whole heart. It is consistent, relational based. It's about a personal relationship. So how do we keep showing up when nothing's happening? Because Elizabeth and Zechariah, they don't hear God. They don't see anything happen. They've been praying for this for a long time to have a child. Nothing's happening. But how do you do that? But it teaches us this crucial principle of just keep showing up. Do what you can do. Keep seeking after God anyway. Just show up anyway. We see it right off from their story. What happens? They show up serving. Zechariah, his division was chosen. He goes to the temple. He does his duties as the priest, and he's just showing up. It's not glamorous work. He's not in the limelight. He's in there. He's in the temple. He's in the holy place all by himself. Then out of nowhere, an angel shows up. And then the next thing that we learn from his story is that he shows up praying. Show up serving, show up praying. While he's burning incense, symbolic of prayers going to heaven, the angel comes in and he shows up in a powerful way, and he says, Zechariah said to him, he comes to him, and as it lays this out in Luke chapter 1, verse 11 through 13, and there appeared to him an angel of the Lord standing at the right side of the altar of incense in verse 12. And Zechariah was troubled when he saw him, and he fell on his face. He fell down upon him. In verse 13, the angel said to him, do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear a son, and you shall call his name John. Man, so much of our life. We can't control everything, but you know what we can do? Show up anyway. Doesn't seem like this could ever happen. Show up anyway. This can happen in anything in your life. You're working a job. You don't like it. You don't like how things are going. Maybe you're in a tough marriage situation. Maybe your parent. Maybe your kids aren't doing what you want them to do. Maybe you're a child and you're like, I think my parents are being unfair. Hey, show up anyway. Show up serving. Show up praying. Show up doing the things that you're supposed to do. Man, show up anyway, even when you don't see anything happen. And the next thing that happens is you need to show up despite doubts. Maybe you don't see anything happen. You have those doubts creep in. We all do. Nobody's perfect. Doubts come in just like Zechariah. Zechariah, even as the angel of the Lord appears in a dramatic way and tells him this answer to a prayer that only him and God would know. And he says, but how can I know it's true? How can I know? Because my wife is advanced in years and I'm old and I just don't see how this is possible. I mean, show up despite your doubts. And what does this mean? If your prayer has been heard, like what does he mean by that? The angel gives these words, they're profound words to Zechariah. Do not be afraid. Your prayers have been heard. God hears your prayers even when you don't think he's listening. God answers personal prayer within a larger scheme. Because you might be thinking, I don't even want to bother God with this. I don't even want to go to God. I hear this so many times, and I get that. God's doing all these things. I'm nobody. I'm not important. Why would he possibly? God is big enough to answer your specific prayer and a cosmic, greater plan that is so amazing that only God can put together. So I want to encourage you, keep praying and just let me give you some practical things and be faithful in godly routines. Set up your life where you're just routinely, constantly going after God for a relationship. That's the next thing is have it rooted in routines in relationship and not in religious things. Like religion is all about, and I'm talking about fake man-made religion, is all about doing things to appease God. God already loves you. He sent his son to die in your place. He loves you while you were yet sinners. But he wants a relationship with you. And then practice long-term routines that go in the same direction. And I always think of this analogy of our spiritual life. It's similar to our physical bodies. Like when you're trying to get in shape, you're trying to work out. Man, if you go to the gym one time, what are you going to see? Nothing. Maybe it's been a week or 2 weeks. You go and look in the mirror. What are you going to see? Probably no change. You're not going to visibly notice anything. But do something for long enough, consistently, doing it the right way, just keep showing up. You will begin to see God change your life. Just like when you keep at those things in your physical body, your body will begin to change over time. I want to close with some questions for you to just think about. What are some prayers that have been given, that maybe you've given up on, that you might need to bring back up to God? Are you do you have a spiritual practice that is drawing you close to God? Maybe start that routine back up. Whatever that looks like, where you draw close to God, whenever you have affection for God, do that. Whatever that is. And how can you show up more consistently in your relationship with God this week? Let me ask you this last thing. What would change in your life if you truly believe that God hears you and remembers your prayers? I want you to think about that as we close. And if this has been a blessing to you, I hope it has. And you keep seeking God, that you keep showing up anyway. Keep showing up serving. Just be faithful. Keep showing up serving. Show up praying. And also show up despite doubts. God is big enough to handle your doubts, and he can hear you. He hears you. He answers your prayers. I hope this has been a blessing to you and that you are always taking this in so that you can be prepared for action.